I was still standing in the doorway of my apartment, keys in hand, when my phone lit up with a message that didn't need punctuation to hurt. Eli, please don't come to the wedding. The family wants a peaceful weekend. No explanation, no hesitation, just an erasure disguised as maturity. A moment later, another notification appeared. Tessa, my brother's fiancée, had liked the message, not questioned it, not softened it, just approved it, as if removing me was the simplest solution to a problem they had never bothered to name. And here's the part that stopped me cold. The message wasn't surprising. But the timing was, because they didn't know what I had just discovered about them, something they never expected me to see. Before I go any further, let me know where you're listening from. Sometimes it helps to know someone out there understands how complicated family can be. My name is Elias Grant, 32, living in Chicago. If you asked anyone who knew us, they'd say my family looked stable, respectable, maybe even ideal. My mother, Lillian, curated her life the way other people curated art collections, controlled, immaculate, always perfect from the outside. My stepfather, Bruce, built his identity around avoiding conflict. And my younger brother, Noah, lived under a spotlight he didn't earn but had grown very comfortable in. I was the one who lived in the background, reliable, predictable, the fixer, the person expected to step in quietly whenever something became inconvenient for someone else. I filled gaps before anyone noticed they existed. It was never asked of me, never acknowledged, simply assumed, like gravity or running water. So when Noah got engaged, it was obvious who would handle everything difficult. The budgets, the vendors, the timelines, the deposits he couldn't afford. It all drifted my way the same way storms drift east, naturally, inevitably. I took it on without thinking. That was the role I'd been trained for since childhood. Hold the pieces, make it work, don't ask for thanks. But standing in that narrow hallway, the smell of cold air on my coat, and that message burning on my screen, I felt an unfamiliar stillness settle in my chest. A clarity I hadn't recognized in years. Being uninvited wasn't the beginning of the story. It was the moment I finally realized I wasn't part of their plans, only part of their convenience. And that realization was the first crack in a role I had never chosen. In the days after that message, life didn't change all at once. It shifted the way a room does when one light quietly burns out, subtle at first, but impossible to ignore once you notice the shadows. I kept telling myself I shouldn't be surprised. I kept insisting I'd seen this pattern before, but something about this time felt different, heavier, like a storm forming behind a door I didn't realize I had left unlocked. At first, the tension came in small, almost polite ways. My mother's voice on the phone, clipped and efficient, thanking me for handling the preliminary payments as if I were an assistant she barely remembered hiring. Noah texting me screenshots of venues without context, followed by, "Just get whichever one works." Tessa sending color palettes with no greeting, no please, no thank you, just the assumption that I had nothing else to do but execute their aesthetic whims. Individually, none of it was shocking. Together, it began to accumulate, settling over me like dust you don't realize is suffocating you until you try to breathe deeper. I tried to rationalize it. That's the part that embarrasses me now. I kept thinking maybe they were stressed, maybe they didn't mean it, maybe I was overreacting. That's what happens when you grow up in a family where your feelings are treated like background noise. You learn to negotiate with your own hurt until it barely knows it exists. But the moments began to sharpen. The first real cut came during a planning call I forced myself to join. I had stayed late at work, the skyline still glowing behind my office window. I offered a budget adjustment, something simple, necessary, rational. Before I finished explaining the reasoning, Noah sighed the way people do when a server forgets their order. "Eli, can you not make this complicated? You're good at fixing things. Just fix it." I stared at the speakerphone as if it could explain to me why my brother sounded like a stranger. My mother chimed in after, her tone smooth in that way only someone used to being obeyed can achieve. "We just need you to make it work, sweetheart. Don't dwell on the numbers. Don't dwell." As if dwelling was the problem, not the financial sinkhole I was filling for them. Then came the moment that truly shifted the ground. I stopped by my mother's house to drop off a revised timeline. The late afternoon sun was slanting across her hardwood floors, dust floating like tiny, careless sparks in the air. Noah and Tessa were on the couch, scrolling through their phones. They didn't look up. My mother took the papers from me without thanking me. Then, with almost casual precision, she said, "We've been talking about adding a welcome party. Something elegant. Maybe at the Lakeside Club." I blinked. "That's not in the budget." She smiled the kind of smile that always felt like a correction. "Well, that's why we need you. You always find a way." Then something flickered in her eyes, a glance toward the dining table, where I noticed an opened envelope with my grandmother's handwriting on it, the emergency fund, her small, carefully preserved savings. My mother shifted her gaze away too quickly, and suddenly everything inside me went still. The welcome party wasn't the request, the money wasn't the issue, it was the assumption, the quiet, lethal belief that my grandmother's sacrifices were theirs to spend, the way my time and paycheck had become theirs, without ever being spoken aloud. That night, clarity settled in my chest like a cold coin dropped into water, silent, startling, inevitable. This wasn't a series of small oversights, this wasn't family stress. This was entitlement, calculated, rehearsed, emboldened by years of me never pushing back. The lightest breeze can't knock a building down, but it can reveal the cracks. And mine were finally beginning to show. The real fracture didn't happen in a single moment. It unfolded the way a fault line does, quietly, invisibly, until the pressure becomes impossible to ignore. And for me, that pressure built in a series of scenes that still play in my mind with the clarity of film reels. A few days after noticing my mother lingering a little too long on my grandmother's savings envelope, I drove my grandmother to her dress fitting. It was one of those gray Chicago afternoons where the cold doesn't announce itself. It just climbs up your sleeves like it belongs there. My grandmother held my arm as we walked into the boutique. Her steps slower than I remembered, but steady in a way that always calmed me. She looked small in the mirror when the seamstress pinned her dress, the soft fabric pooling around her ankles. Yet when she spoke, her voice carried the weight of something she'd been trying to put into words for a long time. "I heard your mother talking," she whispered, eyes fixed on her reflection. "They're making decisions without you, important ones." There was something in the way she said "without you," not dramatic, not accusatory, just factual. And that, more than anything, made my stomach tighten. Before I could respond, the assistant called us over, and the moment, fragile and trembling, slipped away. But it stayed with me. 2 days later, I stopped by my mother's house to deliver the finalized rehearsal dinner timeline. Late afternoon light spilled across the living room like warm honey, softening the edges of the furniture, almost making the house look gentle. But the people inside it didn't match the lighting. Tessa was on the couch, scrolling on her phone. Noah sat beside her, expression blank with indifference. My mother hovered behind them, arms crossed in that familiar posture that always felt like a prelude to disapproval. "We're confirming seating," she announced. "Tessa found a better layout than the one you sent." Better? Not kinder, not more practical, just better because it wasn't mine. Before I could say anything, Tessa's screen lit up with the same message that had uninvited me from the wedding. I watched her thumb gently tap the heart icon, like she was approving a menu item rather than endorsing my erasure. That tiny gesture, soundless, effortless, cut deeper than the message itself. It wasn't anger, it wasn't rejection, it was dismissal. The kind that tells you you're not even important enough to resent. She didn't look up. She just locked her phone and murmured, "It's for the best, Eli. Everyone agrees." Everyone. The word ricocheted inside my chest like a small metallic thing. My grandmother's warning echoed through my mind. They're making decisions without you, and suddenly it all snapped into place. This wasn't conflict. This wasn't miscommunication. This was coordinated. And the truth settled over me like a cold, heavy blanket. They had been preparing this exclusion long before the message ever hit my phone. That night, I sat alone in my apartment with the wedding documents spread across my dining table. The apartment was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator, the city noise faint through the windows. One by one, the invoices glowed back at me: venue deposits, catering retainers, lighting adjustments, decor rentals. Every cost approved under my name, every responsibility placed on my shoulders. But there was something else too, something I hadn't noticed before, a pattern. Every time I had tried to draw a boundary, even a soft one, it had been dismissed. Every contribution I made was treated as expected, required, invisible. Every request from them had grown larger, bolder, more entitled, until they no longer saw it as a favor, but as my obligation. Looking at those contracts, I realized something I'd never let myself say out loud. They didn't rely on me. They consumed me. The next day, the tension escalated into something almost surreal. I received a text from Noah containing yet another updated seating chart, accompanied by a casual note. "Mom wants this version instead. No please, no thank you. Just another directive, formatted for my compliance." For a long moment, I just stared at the message, the words blurring into shapes. My heartbeat slowed until it felt like a metronome. This wasn't ignorance. This wasn't stress. This was entitlement with history behind it. And something inside me, something I had spent years quieting, finally rose to the surface. The breaking point came that evening. My grandmother showed up at my apartment unannounced, her coat dusted with the early hints of snow. She stepped inside quietly, sat on my couch, and folded her hands in her lap the way she always did when she was gathering courage. "I know they hurt you," she said softly, "but you don't have to carry them anymore." Her voice trembled in a way that cracked something open inside me. This wasn't just about me. It was about her. It was about the years she had watched this family take and take without giving anything back. The years she had been treated as an afterthought. The years she had counted on me to be her buffer because she knew I understood. I sat beside her, feeling the weight of every unbalanced moment, every quiet indignity, every assumption they had built their comfort on. "I'm done carrying them," I said. "I'm choosing us this time." She nodded, her eyes shining not with sadness, but with something like pride, relieved, tender, fierce. And in that moment, the shift was complete. Not explosive, not dramatic, just final. A door closing, a truth settling, a person rising. The next chapter wasn't going to be about appeasing them. It would be about reclaiming myself. The night after my grandmother left, the apartment felt different. Not quieter. Silence had never bothered me, but clearer, as if someone had wiped fog from a window I didn't know was dirty. I sat at my dining table again, the wedding contracts spread out in front of me like pieces of a puzzle I finally understood. It wasn't just the money I had poured into this wedding, it was the years of bending, softening, shrinking so they could expand. The invoices weren't numbers anymore. They were evidence, a record of every moment I'd been expected to rescue, subsidize, or disappear. I opened my laptop. For the first time, my hands didn't shake. There was no grief, no hesitation, just a stillness that felt almost holy. I reread each contract line by line, understanding them not as obligations but as reminders. Everything they believed they controlled was, legally and practically, tethered to me. Every vendor, every deposit, every authorization. The authority they assumed belonged to them had always been mine. That realization didn't bring satisfaction. It brought alignment, like my body finally matching the truth my mind had known for years. I drafted emails one at a time, my tone professional but firm. "Hello, we will not be moving forward. Please cancel the pending invoice." Another. We won't need the lighting package after all. Terminate the contract effective immediately. And another, we won't be proceeding with the venue's expanded services. I didn't mention my family. I didn't hint at the betrayal. It wasn't about revenge. It was about ending a cycle that should have ended years ago. With each sent email, I felt a weight lift in increments, not suddenly, the way healing often happens, piece by piece, thread by thread. Halfway through the cancellations, my phone buzzed with a new message, a group thread update. Noah had sent another mock-up of the seating chart. No note, no greeting, just another map of where I supposedly didn't belong. I stared at it for a long moment before typing 2 words into a private message to my mother. Great choice. I hovered a second, then typed a second sentence. Then you'll be free of my payments too. No anger, no performance, just truth. I hit send. The seconds after were not filled with regret or even relief, just a quiet knowing. A shift into the person I should have been all along. I continued working, canceling contract after contract, until the planning board I'd built over months dissolved into clean, empty columns. The wedding, without my support, began collapsing in real time. Around midnight, a soft knock sounded at my door. I knew who it was before I opened it. My grandmother stood there in her winter coat, her breath forming small clouds in the cold hallway. She stepped inside without a word and sat on my couch, smoothing her skirt, the familiar gesture she used whenever she needed courage. "Tell me what you did," she said gently. When I told her, she didn't gasp. She didn't scold. She didn't ask why. She reached for my hand, her fingers cool and steady. "Good," she whispered. "You didn't hurt them. You just stopped hurting yourself." Her words hit deeper than anything my family had ever said to me. We sat there for a long time, the city noise faint beyond the windows, sirens in the distance, a car horn, laughter drifting from someone walking home late. But inside my apartment, everything was still. Safe. Honest. My grandmother leaned back against the cushions, exhaustion softening her features. "When they come home," she murmured, "we'll be ready." It didn't sound like a threat. It sounded like preparation, like 2 people who had finally stopped waiting for an apology that was never going to come. When she left, I walked her to the elevator and stood there until the doors closed. By the time I returned to my apartment, something had shifted fully inside me. Not loud, not dramatic, just true. I wasn't afraid of the confrontation anymore. I wasn't afraid of disappointing them, or being blamed, or being misunderstood. I had already been cast out. All that remained was to stop pretending I belonged in a place that required my silence to function. The rise didn't come with fire or fury. It came with clarity, and clarity, when you've been denied it long enough, feels like power. The morning they were scheduled to return, the city felt unnaturally quiet, as if something in the air had tightened. My grandmother sat at my small kitchen table, folding and unfolding the same napkin, her eyes drifting toward the window every few seconds. I made tea just to keep my hands busy, the steam rising in soft, ghost-like curls. Neither of us said it aloud, but we both felt it. This was the day everything shifted. We arrived at the airport earlier than necessary. My grandmother held my arm as we walked through the terminal, her grip steady in a way that grounded me more than I expected. Our attorney, Mason Hill, waited near the arrivals hall, his briefcase at his feet, posture calm and immovable. He nodded to us, flipping open a folder with practiced ease. "Everything's in place," he said. "They'll likely approach you first. They'll want control of the narrative." Control. That was the currency my family had traded in my entire life. A ripple of movement at the sliding doors caught my attention. Passengers spilled out, rumpled jackets, tired eyes, the chaos of arrival. And then I saw them, my mother leading the group, back straight as if she were returning from a victory parade. Noah followed with Tessa trailing close behind, her suitcase wobbling slightly on its wheels. Bruce came last, shoulders hunched, gaze already drifting away. For a split second, instinct tugged at me, the old reflex to smooth tension, to step toward them, to make myself useful. But that version of me belonged to a life I had ended. My mother spotted us first. Confusion flashed across her face, followed quickly by irritation. "What are you doing here?" she asked sharply. "You didn't need to pick us up. We already have a car." "We're not here to pick you up," I said. Noah snorted under his breath. "Then what is this, Eli? Some dramatic stunt?" Before I could answer, Mason stepped forward. "Good morning. I'm Mason Hill, representing Elias and Mrs. Grant regarding a matter requiring your immediate attention." The color drained from my mother's face. Tessa blinked rapidly. Even Noah seemed to lose his grip on arrogance for a moment. "This must be a joke," my mother said. "A lawyer? For what?" "For the financial exploitation tied to the wedding funds," Mason replied calmly, handing her a sealed envelope, "and the attempted use of Mrs. Grant's emergency savings without consent." My mother's jaw tightened. Noah stepped forward, voice rising. "You're blowing this out of proportion. We didn't do anything wrong." My grandmother spoke before I could, her voice trembling but firm. "You told him he wasn't welcome at a wedding he paid for, and you tried to use my money on top of it." Silence fell, thick, suffocating. Mason continued. "All contracts were under Elias's name, all payments traced to his accounts. His decision to terminate them is final." Tessa swallowed hard, mascara smudged beneath her eyes. My mother looked between us, her confidence dissolving into panic. "Eli, please, we can fix this." I held her gaze, steady, unshaken. "I'm not here to fix anything," I said. "I'm here to stop." Her lips parted, but no explanation came. "For once," I added, "you'll have to figure it out without me." And with that, something in the air broke. Not in violence, but in truth. The power dynamic that had defined my entire life shattered in a single breath. I turned toward the exit with my grandmother's hand in mine, the noise of the terminal swelling behind us, growing distant. For the first time, I wasn't walking away in anger. I was walking away in ownership of my boundaries, my voice, my life. In the weeks after everything unfolded, life didn't snap into a perfect shape. It softened, it steadied. The noise that had filled my days, expectations, obligations, unspoken demands, faded into something I hadn't felt since childhood. Quiet. Real quiet. The kind that lets you hear your own thoughts without bracing for impact. My family's messages came less frequently, then not at all. And instead of feeling abandoned, I felt released. I spent more time with my grandmother, letting her stories fill the spaces where duty used to live. Some afternoons we sat in her garden, sunlight catching the silver in her hair, both of us breathing easier in ways we hadn't realized we needed. I kept replaying everything, not out of regret, but out of recognition. I had spent years mistaking endurance for love, mistaking usefulness for belonging, and somewhere along the way, I forgot the simplest truth of all. Respect is the only foundation that love can stand on. Without it, everything else is just choreography. That realization didn't erase the past, but it reframed it. It reminded me that stepping away isn't failure. It's clarity. It's choosing the version of yourself that doesn't shrink to fit someone else's comfort. If any part of this story resonates with your own, I hope you give yourself permission to choose differently, to honor the weight you've been carrying, and the strength it takes to finally set it down. Thank you for staying with me through every turn of this journey. Your presence here means more than you know. And I hope you'll join me in the next video, because the stories we tell next might be the ones that finally help us heal.